English and AEC. 66 Green Glossaries. Sustainability in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. Green Glossary, A to F. Adaptive reuse. The practice of reusing historic or abandoned buildings rather than demolishing them. Adaptive reuse is one of the best sustainable construction strategies because the carbon footprint of a building that already exists is inherently lower than the massive emissions of embodied carbon required to construct a brand new building, even a green one. Alternative energy. An alternative source of power to fossil fuels. Also referred to as renewable, clean, or green energy. Alternative energy sources are preferable to fossil fuels from a sustainability perspective because they either emit fewer or zero greenhouse gases compared to the burning of coal, oil, or natural gas. Examples of alternative energy sources include wind and solar. Anthropocene. The unofficial name of the Earth's present geological era, characterized above all else by humanity's impacts on the planet's biodiversity, ecosystems, and climates. BIM. BIM, or Building Information Modeling, is an advanced form of design software that allows architects, engineers, and construction managers to create highly immersive 3D models of construction projects. BIM is a powerful tool for imagining and designing green buildings. A version called 6D BIM allows users to simulate and analyze a structure based on its energy efficiency and sustainability profile. Bioconcrete. A type of self-healing concrete that is grown with microbes in a process that mirrors how coral and seashells are formed in nature. An example of green concrete, bioconcrete requires much less energy to produce, has a longer lifespan than traditional concrete, and absorbs carbon from the atmosphere, making it an attractive prospect for those concerned about sustainability in the built environment. Biodegradable refers to materials or products that can be broken down in nature in a way that is not harmful to the environment. Biodegradable materials are preferable from a sustainability perspective because their decomposition doesn't leave behind toxins or other environmental pollutants. Examples of biodegradable construction materials include wood, bamboo, hempcrete, cork, and mycelium. Biodiversity. The rich variety of flora, fauna, fungi, and all other forms of life on the macro and micro scale found within a natural ecosystem. Biophilic design. An architectural philosophy focused on putting people in closer contact with nature as a way of increasing the health and well-being of both. Buildings created with biophilic design are heavily interwoven with natural elements such as plant life, living walls, natural lighting, open-air spaces, and water features. Blackwater recycling. Black water, or wastewater from toilets, can be safely recycled as drinking water if the proper treatment and filtration systems are in place. Though rare because of how expensive and energy-intensive they are, blackwater recycling systems can increase resource efficiency, lower utility bills, and offer a viable climate mitigation strategy in regions of the world where water is scarce. An example of a blackwater recycling system can be found at the Vancouver Convention Center West. BREEAM. The world's first green building standard, BREEAM stands for Building Research Establishment Environmental Assessment Method. Like LEED, BREEAM is an evidence-based certification system that evaluates individual building projects based on their level of sustainability. Originating in the United Kingdom in the 1990s, BREEAM has since been adopted in 85 countries and has certified more than 590,000 buildings worldwide. Carbon emissions. Shorthand for the carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases emitted by human activities that involve the burning of fossil fuels. A potent greenhouse gas, CO2, is the primary driver of global warming. As such, the construction industry is a major contributor to climate change, burning roughly 36% of the world's total fossil fuels while also generating 39% of global carbon emissions, according to the International Energy Agency.
Carbon footprint refers to the total amount of carbon and other greenhouse gases emitted by a particular entity, be it an individual, organization, or project. An entity's carbon footprint is typically measured in tons per year. Carbon lock-in. The idea that the world has become locked into a self-perpetuating cycle of dependency on fossil fuels as the result of inertia systematically generated by wrong-headed institutions, technologies, business interests, policy frameworks, economic forces, and incentive structures. Coined in a 2000 journal article by Gregory C. Unruh, carbon lock-in offers a potential explanation for why industrialized human civilization continues to use fossil fuels, despite the overwhelming evidence of their destructive effects and the ready availability of more efficient, less harmful alternatives. Carbon neutral. When a building's carbon emissions are brought into balance over time with an equivalent carbon reduction through the use of sustainable construction practices. For instance, a building that generates its own energy from renewable sources in an amount equivalent to the carbon emitted during the construction process can be said to have achieved carbon neutrality, or net zero emissions. Buildings that are carbon neutral are generally more energy efficient and less harmful to the environment. Climate change. Climate change, also referred to as global warming, refers to periodic shifts in local, regional, or global temperatures and weather patterns. Historically, climate change events have unfolded gradually over thousands of years as the result of small wobbles in the Earth's orbit around the Sun. In its contemporary use, however, climate change describes the rapid acceleration of global warming and catastrophic weather patterns resulting directly from human activities. The planet has experienced a 1.1 degrees Celsius rise in global surface temperature over the last 200 years as a result of the burning of fossil fuels since the dawn of the Industrial Age. Unless we dramatically lower global CO2 emissions within the next few years, climate scientists predict that the planet will warm by 3 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. Cross-laminated timber. A wood-based construction material that consists of layers of lumber boards and panels that are glued together in a crosswise fashion so that the alternating grain patterns in the finished product provide optimal reinforcement and strength. CLT has gained popularity in recent years as a more sustainable alternative to steel and concrete. An example of CLT construction is OAT, a wooden skyscraper with a concrete core located in Amsterdam, Netherlands. Decarbonization. Decarbonization refers to the process of lowering or eliminating carbon emissions with the goal of reaching carbon neutrality, or even zero emissions. In construction, decarbonization takes two primary forms: reducing the embodied carbon emissions that occurred during every phase of the construction from start to finish, and lowering or eliminating the operational carbon emissions that occur from the power usage of a building over its life cycle. Ecology. The interconnected relationships between life forms and the natural environments that surround them. Humanity's ability to survive and thrive on Earth is inextricably tied to the health of the ecologies that we are situated within. Embodied carbon. Embodied carbon refers to carbon emitted by the construction process from start to finish, specifically during the extraction, manufacture, transport, installation, maintenance, demolition, and disposal of the building materials that are used to construct roads, buildings, and infrastructure. Two major sources of embodied carbon in construction are steel and concrete production, each of which emits about 8% of total global carbon emissions. Energy efficiency. In the construction and building sector, energy efficiency refers to the ability of a structure to optimally perform its functions with less energy. For example, building insulation can be used to seal in hot or cold air, reducing the use of electricity for powering heaters and air conditioners. Energy Star. Energy Star is a program administered by the EPA that promotes energy efficiency in consumer products and buildings. buildings that are Energy Star certified are at least 10% more energy efficient compared to non-certified structures. Energy use intensity. A measurement of a building's energy efficiency in relation to its space, typically expressed as energy per square foot. In construction, EUI is a key concept to understanding and performing a life cycle assessment. ESG investment. Environmental, social, and governance investment is a growing approach to investing in business leadership that prioritizes the environmental and social impacts of a company, as well as the fairness and equitability of its internal structure. In construction, ESG investment may take the form of a company using sustainable building materials, embracing rigorous safety practices, and adopting a more equitable internal structure such as the Mondragon Workers' Co-op model.
Green Glossary, G2O.
Geothermal heat pump. A geothermal heat pump is an eco-friendly heating and cooling system that works by drawing ambient energy from under the Earth's surface and using it to heat homes during the winter and cool them during the summer. Geothermal heat pumps are one of the most energy-efficient HVAC systems in existence. Following the same principles that make refrigerators work, geothermal heat pumps are composed of buried pipes arranged in a switchback pattern that are filled with circulating water or antifreeze and connected to an above-ground heat exchanger. Global warming potential. A term used to describe the climate impacts over time of 1 ton of a particular greenhouse gas compared to 1 ton of carbon dioxide emissions. The larger the GWP, the larger the impact a particular gas will have on global climate. In construction, GWP is a key concept used in life cycle assessments. Green building. A green building, also referred to as a sustainable building, is a structure that has been built or renovated to be less harmful to the environment and healthier for human occupants. Green buildings are typically more livable, more energy efficient, and incorporate a range of sustainable building practices, systems, and materials. Green Building Standard. Green building standards are action-oriented frameworks that aim to increase the health, efficiency, and sustainability of buildings. Green building standards, also commonly referred to as green building certification or rating systems, provide a standardized rubric by which to gauge a building's level of sustainability, encouraging a departure from traditional construction practices that are harmful to nature. A mark of prestige, green building standards encourage sustainable construction by highlighting systematic ways to build structures that are more energy efficient, less wasteful, and less destructive to the natural environment. Prominent examples of green building standards are LEED and BREEAM. Green concrete. Green concrete refers to a wide assortment of more eco-friendly alternatives to traditional concrete. Green concrete typically uses some sort of recycled waste material as one of its components or involves a production process that is far less destructive to the environment compared to the manufacture of traditional Portland cement. Examples of green concrete include hempcrete and bioconcrete. Greenhouse gas. The category of harmful gases emitted by the burning of fossil fuels that trap the sun's heat in the atmosphere like a greenhouse, causing global temperatures to rise. Green plumbing. The use of plumbing technologies and systems that optimize water efficiency and reduce environmental harm. Green roof. A green roof is a layer of vegetation that either partially or completely covers the top of a human-made structure. Green roofs are a regenerative design technique that have a number of benefits from a sustainability perspective, serving as vibrant urban ecosystems for local biodiversity and sources of healthy food for human occupants. Green roofs also help purify the air, clean stormwater runoff, and push back against the urban heat island effect by lowering the outdoor ambient air temperature by as much as 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Greenwashing. The act of conveying misleading or even false information about a product, company, or initiative to make it appear more sustainable and environmentally friendly than it actually is. Greenwashing has become a go-to marketing strategy for everyone from businesses and governments to nonprofits and other individuals who use the language of sustainability to cover up environmental harm caused by their actions. In the world of construction, greenwashing is often used to disguise the negative impacts of building projects. A prime example is the sustainable city in Dubai, which markets itself as net zero, even though this isn't true. Gray water. Water that can be safely recycled for non-potable purposes even though it has been lightly used for bathing or washing dishes or clothes. While it may contain traces of grease, dirt, food, and household cleaning products, gray water can be safely reused for watering plants, provided that it goes through the proper filtration process. Though gray water is not safe for drinking, households that use gray water recycling systems for their lawn care needs are more resource efficient, saving as much as 40,000 gallons of water per year. Indoor air quality. The quality of the air within and around our buildings. Poor indoor air quality can have lasting negative impacts on the health of human occupants. Indoor air quality is a major indicator of how livable a structure is and can be improved by using sustainable building materials that are low in volatile organic compounds.
International Energy Agency. The International Energy Agency is an international organization focused on providing data, analysis, and policy recommendations related to the global energy sector. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, is a body of international scientists assembled by the United Nations for the purpose of assessing climate change and developing strategies and policy frameworks for overcoming the challenges that global warming presents to life on Earth. The IPCC's assessment reports are the go-to source of information for the latest in climate science, offering action-oriented guidance on how world governments, regions, and cities should respond to and prepare for global warming. LEED. Short for Leadership Energy and Environmental Design, LEED is one of the world's most widely used green building standards. Since its creation by the U.S. Green Building Council in 1998, LEED has become one of the most popular international green building standards, with more than 100,000 certified projects worldwide. Life Cycle Assessment. A life cycle assessment is a systematic computer-driven method for quantifying the sustainability of a construction project over the course of its entire lifespan. An LCA provides a complete map of the environmental and climatological impacts of your project, from the embodied carbon emitted by material extraction, manufacturing, and installation to the operational carbon emitted by the structure's day-to-day power consumption. Living Building Challenge. Regarded as one of the most rigorous green building standards in existence, the Living Building Challenge pushes builders to adopt regenerative design as a way of increasing a building's sustainability. Under the LBC, the sustainability of a project is determined after assessing a year of the building's performance and by measuring it against 7 key performance metrics, or PETALs. Metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. The official standard unit of measurement for carbon dioxide emissions and other greenhouse gases. Mycelium. Mycelium is a white fibrous material that grows in the soil, forming dense fungal networks underground, of which mushrooms are the fruiting bodies. An essential component of a thriving ecosystem, mycelium and mushrooms can also be used in construction as a sustainable building material. Examples of mycelium's uses in construction include as insulation, bricks, and decorative wall panels. Mycoremediation. The process of using fungi to break down and biodegrade waste materials and pollutants in the environment. Natural ventilation. The process of pulling fresh air into a building from the outside by virtue of passive design elements. An example of natural ventilation is a wind catcher. New urbanism. New urbanism is a school of thought in the urban design world that argues against the supremacy of the car and in favor of human-scale cities with compact mixed-use neighborhoods, inclusionary zoning, interconnected trail networks, and robust public transit systems at their hearts. Operational carbon. Operational carbon refers to the carbon emissions that result from the energy consumed by buildings once they've been constructed. In other words, these emissions are a result of the fossil fuels burned to heat, cool, and electrify our buildings during their lifespans.
Green Glossary, P to Z.
Paris Agreement. A landmark international treaty adopted in 2015 by 196 nations during the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris. The primary goal of the Paris Agreement is to keep global warming from going beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. The treaty calls for worldwide carbon emissions to be reduced by 45% by 2030 and for the globe to reach net zero emissions by 2050. Passive design. A sustainable method of designing and constructing low-energy buildings that derive their power, heating, cooling, and ventilation needs either partially or completely from naturally occurring passive elements within the environment. A building created with passive design can achieve a comfortable and livable interior simply by taking advantage of the surrounding climate and by relying on the innate properties of certain materials, such as the thermal mass of concrete. Passive elements that can be manipulated to positively influence a building's energy efficiency include its windows, glazing, blinds, insulation, orientation, tree cover, air tightness, and evaporative qualities. Passive house. Also referred to as Passivhaus, Passivhaus is a German green building standard that emphasizes energy efficiency through passive design. Regenerative design. A rigorous approach to designing sustainable buildings and communities in such a way that they have a net positive impact on the natural environments that surround them. Regeneratively, buildings mimic natural restorative processes and integrate living systems into their design. An example of a regenerative design element is a green roof. Solar photovoltaic installer. Solar photovoltaic installers are skilled professionals in the renewable energy and construction sector who assemble and install systems that convert sunlight into electrical energy. Stormwater runoff. Rain that is not absorbed into the ground but instead flows over hard surfaces in the built environment such as rooftops, concrete parking lots, and paved streets and sidewalks. Stormwater runoff can result in flooding and the pollution of drinking water, as stormwater runoff carries toxins in the form of fertilizers, oil, pesticides, and other harmful chemicals found in the built environment. Stormwater runoff can be reduced with sustainable building techniques such as green roofs. Suburban sprawl. Suburban sprawl refers to the constant outward expansion of the suburbs, seemingly without plan or design, into the natural and agricultural settings that surround them. As low-density housing developments and strip malls spread unchecked into the countryside, so too proliferate the networks of roads, highways, and parking lots that connect them. Suburban sprawl is antithetical to the aspiration of a more sustainable form of construction and urban design because it destroys natural ecosystems and upholds the supremacy of the automobile, resulting in unwalkable communities that are detrimental to both human and environmental health. Superblock. Superblocks are an urban design and transformation technique aimed at calming or eliminating automotive traffic within clusters of blocks that have been organized into a single, larger block. Championed in Barcelona, Spain, superblocks are one way to retrofit existing cities to be healthier and more walkable. Sustainable city. Also referred to as a green city or an eco-city, a sustainable city is an urban environment whose design, construction, and operation prioritizes the preservation of the natural world alongside the economic, social, and physical health and wellness of the city's inhabitants. Sustainable construction. An approach to construction that protects and bolsters the health of humans and the environment by adopting renewable energy, sustainable building materials, and other transformative climate-conscious building practices. Sustainable construction becomes more important with each passing day in an era characterized by ever-growing impacts from human-caused climate change. As of this writing, construction eats up 36% of the world's fossil fuels while also generating 39% of global CO2 emissions. Sustainable building materials. A category of eco-friendly building materials that require less or zero fossil fuels to produce compared to traditional carbon-intensive building materials like steel or concrete. Some examples of sustainable building materials include wood, cork, mycelium, hemp, and green concrete.
Tactical urbanism. Tactical urbanism, also referred to as guerrilla urbanism, DIY urbanism, and urban acupuncture, is a fast, affordable, action-oriented approach to making meaningful improvements to the physical fabric and feel of neighborhoods, cities, and other communal areas. In practice, tactical urbanism involves people going out into their communities and making the changes to the built environment they want to see, sometimes without asking for permission. According to Mike Lydon and Anthony Garcia, the co-authors of Tactical Urbanism, short-term action for long-term change, tactical urbanism is used by a range of actors, including governments, business and nonprofits, citizen groups, and individuals. An example of tactical urbanism include using tires, spray paint, or potted plants to reclaim a portion of a street to create a makeshift bike lane, garden, or plaza.
Thermal mass. The capacity of materials in a building to absorb, store, and release heat. An essential passive design strategy, a well-positioned thermal mass acts as a heat sink during the day and a heat source at night, passively absorbing heat from the sun's rays and releasing it as warmth in the evening hours. Examples of high thermal mass building materials include earth, wood, steel, brick, and concrete. Transit-oriented development. Transit-oriented development is a new urbanist approach to sustainable city and regional design aimed at creating compact, walkable, mixed-use communities centered around high-quality mass public transit systems such as trains and buses. Urban heat island effect. An urban heat island is an area of higher temperature in urban areas with high concentrations of heat-absorbing building materials like steel, concrete, and asphalt. These common building materials absorb and re-emit an enormous amount of heat, driving temperatures in cities anywhere between 1 to 7 degrees higher than surrounding areas. Ambient heat generated by vehicles and air conditioning units have further exacerbated the problem. U.S. Green Building Council. The U.S. Green Building Council is the privately run 501c3 that administers the LEED Green Building Standard.
Walkable cities. Cities that are designed more for humans than for cars. Championed by new urbanist thinkers like architect and urban designer Jeff Speck, walkable cities are healthier and more sustainable than traditional cities. Walkable cities are characterized by compact mixed-use neighborhoods, inclusionary zoning, interconnected trail networks, and robust public transit systems.
Wind catcher. Wind catchers are a zero-emissions, low-tech, and sustainable alternative to air conditioning. Also referred to as wind towers, wind scoops, or badger in Persian, wind catchers are an ancient architectural technology that cools spaces without the use of electricity. A typical wind catcher is a tall, hollow, chimney-like structure that crowns the tops of buildings. Cooler fresh air from high up in the sky passes through vertical openings in the tower's sides and is driven downward into the interior of the dwelling below. Wind catchers are most common in Middle Eastern nations. But the ancient Arabian cooling technique has found its way to the U.S. in the form of the wind catcher atop the visitor center at Zion National Park, which can keep the building's interior temperature as much as 29 degrees cooler compared to outside. Wind turbine technicians. One of the fastest growing careers in the U.S. as of this writing, a wind turbine technician, or wind tech, is a skilled professional in the renewable energy and construction sector who is trained to install, inspect, service, and repair wind turbines, massive windmill devices that convert the wind's kinetic energy into electrical energy.
World Green Building Council. The World Green Building Council is an international non-profit organization focused on increasing sustainability and decarbonization in the built environment.
Zero emissions. When no greenhouse gases are emitted at all as the result of a given human activity. A zero or real zero scenario is a more ambitious goal than carbon neutrality or net zero emissions because it calls for the complete elimination of carbon emissions as opposed to the reduction and balancing of them. In construction, achieving zero emissions would require the total elimination of all embodied carbon and operational carbon emitted as the result of a building's construction and operation.
English and AEC. Parametric architecture. 1. Glossary of computational terminology and parametric design.
Parametric design. Parametric design. Computational design. Computational design. Computational architecture. Computational architecture. Computer science. Computer science. Arithmetic architecture. Arithmetic architecture. Geometry. Geometry. Minimal surface. Minimal surface. NURBS curves. NURBS curves. NURBS surfaces. NURBS surfaces.
Supply. Supply. Topology. Topology. Highly customizable convoluted geometry. Highly customizable convoluted geometry.
When you examine any parametric structure, you will discover that it does not adhere to any symmetry notions and defies standard geometry. When you examine any parametric structure, you will discover that it does not adhere to any symmetry notions and defies standard geometry. An universal set of building rules. To guide the design of organic structures, from simple carbon compounds to complex cells and tissues. An universal set of building rules. To guide the design of organic structures, from simple carbon compounds to complex cells and tissues. Mathematical algorithms. Mathematical algorithms. Cellular automata. Cellular automata. Fractals. Fractals. L-systems. L-systems. Voronoi. Voronoi. Algorithm. Algorithm. Argument. Argument. Associative programming. Associative programming. Boolean algebra. Boolean algebra. Natural systems. Natural systems. Biomimetics. Biomimetics. Bottom up. Bottom up. Complex adaptive systems. Complex adaptive systems. Darwinian evolution. Darwinian evolution. Evo-devo. Evo-devo. Flocking. Flocking. Emergence. Emergence. Morphodynamic. Morphodynamic. Morphogenity. Morphogenity. Nonlinear. Nonlinear. Top-down. Top-down. Building energy consumption and daylighting simulation. Building energy consumption and daylighting simulation. A common thread connecting the natural design of the world with human-designed buildings. A common thread connecting the natural design of the world with human-designed buildings. Computation. Computation. Brute force. Brute force. Dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality reduction. Fitness. Fitness. Fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic. Genetic algorithm. Genetic algorithm. Solution space. Solution space. Pareto optimality. Pareto optimality. If-then rules. If-then rules. Recursion. Recursion. A superficial understanding of computational design and further undermines its adoption. A superficial understanding of computational design and further undermines its adoption. It is portrayed as a tool rather than as a philosophy of design. It is portrayed as a tool rather than as a philosophy of design. Process. Process. Algorithmic. Algorithmic. Algorithmically. Algorithmically. Data analysis. Data analysis. Various performance data. Various performance data. Generative design. Generative design. Parametricism. Parametricism. Parametric modeling. Parametric modeling.
Parameters. Parameters.
Parametric rules can qualify an architectural element and create relationships between different elements of the design. Parametric rules can qualify an architectural element and create relationships between different elements of the design. Parametric BIM. Parametric BIM. Generate, extract, and manipulate data. Generate, extract, and manipulate data. Analyses and embedded. Analyses and embedded. Parametric equations. Parametric equations. Partial differential equations. Partial differential equations. The computer software parametricism. The computer software parametricism. Adaptive, parametric malleability. Adaptive, parametric malleability. 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 Mathematical. Mathematical. Solve. Solve. The logic and theory behind the process. The logic and theory behind the process. Some parametric modeling software, Rhino, Grasshopper, Revit, belong BIM. Dynamo, Vectorworks, belong CAD. Some parametric modeling software, Rhino, Grasshopper, Revit, belong BIM. Dynamo, Vectorworks, belong CAD. Fabrication. Fabrication. Digital fabrication. Digital fabrication. Mass customization. Mass customization. Mass production. Mass production. Material feedback. Material feedback. Robotic fabrication. Robotic fabrication.
2. Cybertecture of metaverse.
Metaverse. Metaverse. Most congenial. Most congenial. Cyber technology. Cyber technology. Cybertecture. Cybertecture. Cyberurban city. Cyberurban city. Virtual city. Virtual city. Virtual environments. Virtual environments. Virtual reality realm. Virtual reality realm. Integrated and seamless cybertecture. Integrated and seamless cybertecture. Intelligent control systems. Intelligent control systems. Libertarian micronation. Libertarian micronation. Freestanding. Freestanding. Networking and collaboration. Networking and collaboration. Fullest exploitation. Fullest exploitation. Digital replica. Digital replica. A cloud-based platform. A cloud-based platform. Photorealistic rendering. Photorealistic rendering. Innate and learned. Innate and learned. Intuitive cognitive capacities. Intuitive cognitive capacities. Social atmospheres and situations. Social atmospheres and situations. The micronation's eventual physical presence. The micronation's eventual physical presence. Realism. Realism. The physical micronation. The physical micronation. Physical realization. Physical realization. Lossy compression. Lossy compression. The crypto ecosystem. The crypto ecosystem. Crypto incubator. Crypto incubator. Cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency.
3. Zaha Hadid's architecture.
Daring and unconventional. Daring and unconventional. Significant breakthrough. Significant breakthrough. A new dynamic way. A new dynamic way. Geometric abstract art. Geometric abstract art. Radical and experimental design. Radical and experimental design. Daring intensely creative. Daring intensely creative. Signature style. Signature style. Broaden the horizons. Broaden the horizons. Inspired new architectural thinking and process. Inspired new architectural thinking and process. Abstraction. Abstraction. Fragmentation. Fragmentation. Weightlessness. Weightlessness. Zero gravity. Zero gravity. Can float. Can float. Fluidity. Fluidity. Superposition. Superposition. Razor sharp. Razor sharp. Fragmentation dynamic stream. Fragmentation dynamic stream. Explore dynamism and movement. Explore dynamism and movement. Dynamism and fluidity. Dynamism and fluidity. Curvaceous fluid and sculptural. Curvaceous fluid and sculptural. Distort. Distort. Interpenetrating forms. Interpenetrating forms. Bold curves. Bold curves. Pushing boundaries. Pushing boundaries. Optimizing space. Optimizing space. Bachelor's degree in mathematics. Bachelor's degree in mathematics. Leisure center. Leisure center. Islamic calligraphy. Islamic calligraphy. Flowing arabesque. Flowing arabesque. Innovation. Innovation. Multi-viewpoint perspective. Multi-viewpoint perspective. Functionalism. Functionalism.
Appendix 1. What is parametric design? Parametric design is a method of design based on the use of parameters, which are variables that can be adjusted to change the design. By using parametric design, architects can explore a wide range of possibilities and iterate on their designs to arrive at the optimal solution. The term parametric comes from mathematics. It refers to parametric equations that use a number of parameters and variables. Parametric design differs from traditional design methods in that it is based on the use of parameters and algorithms. Traditional design methods rely on the designer's intuition and experience to create a design, often using trial and error and long hours modeling things manually to arrive at the final design. In contrast, parametric design uses a set of predefined rules and constraints to guide the design process, allowing for a higher level of precision, speed, and clarity. One of the main advantages of parametric design in architecture is its ability to generate multiple design options, allowing architects to explore a wide range of possibilities before settling on a final design. This is known as generative design, and it's a powerful tool for architects to have in their arsenal. Additionally, parametric design allows for precise descriptions of geometry, reducing errors and inconsistencies in the design process and making the construction process more efficient and cost-effective. Appendix 2. The benefits of parametric design.
For a long time, the architect's inventiveness was constrained by natural rules. Several artists have tried to go against the trend over the years, but it was never practicable on a wide scale. It just took a long time to transform an aesthetically appealing structure into an efficient structure. It took a lot of trial and error, time, and teamwork. Parametric architecture allows for creative freedom. It allows you to add a strong architectural signature to your creations by proposing complex shapes and providing an answer to various needs, sometimes subject to precise constraints. Modeling can be easily adapted to potential changes in the project. Finally, parametric architecture allows an optimization of the use of materials and thus grants a better control of costs.
Appendix 3. Future cities with parametric architecture.
Many experts are concerned that AI will progressively replace architects. Although that is a valid problem, an architect may be able to choose an alternative way. A team of architects may be required to develop entire cities rather than focusing on a specific project or neighborhood. With the advancement of technology, entire cities are becoming independent systems in their own right.
Appendix 4. Challenges and limitations of parametric design.
One of the main challenges of parametric design is that it can lead to a homogenization of architecture, with all buildings looking the same. This is because parametric design is based on a set of predefined rules and constraints, which can result in a limited number of design options. However, this issue can be addressed by giving architects more control over the design process and allowing them to incorporate their own design aesthetic and creative vision into the design. Another challenge of parametric design is that it can be seen as taking away from the creativity of the architect. However, this is not the case. While parametric design can automate some of the repetitive tasks of the design process, it still requires the creativity and expertise of the architect to guide the design and make decisions about the final design. A lack of understanding of parametric design can also be a challenge. Not all architects have the necessary knowledge and skills to use parametric design tools, which can result in a lack of adoption of this technology. A limited knowledge of parametric tools can lead to poor aesthetic results and has even given parametric design a bad reputation due to the parametric, but low-quality designs. However, with the increasing availability of online tutorials, workshops, and training programs, architects can easily learn how to use parametric design tools and take advantage of the benefits they offer.
Appendix 5. What's next for architecture?
The fears of AI taking over an entire industry are premature. However, there's no doubt that it is increasingly more common in architecture. It's up to the architects to embrace the new technologies and adapt to modern times. In a way, parametric technology allows them to focus on the things that matter. If they utilize all available tools, they will have a platform with which to further evolve. Whatever the future brings, it's going to be exciting to be a part of.
English and AEC. Parametric architecture and human wellness. 01. Parametric architecture and human wellness.
And this brings us to the part of the conversation that involves human health. These parametric designs also have a great potential for human wellness. By creating shapes of buildings that are curving, it can allow a more relaxing scenario for human physiology. According to new developments and findings in neuroscience, by not having sharp, angular forms, the amygdala and brain center, responsible for stress and fear triggers, are not as triggered. And this can prevent fear and provide less stress. By decreasing emotional, psychological, and physiological stress, along with providing less toxic building materials, these designs can also support better overall health and wellness. So these curving designs are not just soothing to the emotions, they have a direct positive impact on the human experience and can support a sense of well-being.
02. What do curving shapes and mathematical forms have to do with health and wellness? If you asked a child in the modern world to draw a house, it is likely that they will draw a square or rectangular box with a triangle roof, half a square, a rectangle as a door, and a square window or two. This along with a rectangular-shaped chimney and perhaps a long linear fence that is in the basic shape of a rectangle. This would probably be very similar to the reality of how they view the symbol of a house. And this viewpoint as a symbol of a house can actually be quite profound in terms of the viewpoint of how a building is viewed in a child's or adult's psyche. If these objects of architecture are seen as symbols based on squares and rectangles, how does that impact their view on nature and the world they live in? This may not seem like a big deal until you take the time to realize that very little in nature is actually shaped this way. Your own body is mostly curves and are not square and not rectangular in any form. Most of the natural world is curvilinear, whether it be as the human and animal form, or the shapes and designs of landscapes. Most of the world is curving. Even your internal structure as a skeleton has a natural curving format. Your skull, spine, and rib cage is based on curves, and while many of your bones are somewhat linear, they do have a slightly curving shape to them. They also have a curving design as individual bones, with a larger portion of the bone at the ends and thinner interiors, which creates a curving shape and is not just a straight line. This is particularly important in terms of the human connection to the natural world. Without a sense of connection to the natural world and to oneself, how can humans feel connected to nature? And if you can't feel connected to the natural world, can't it be challenging to see the importance of conserving and taking care of and living with nature? This, perhaps, is a challenge for the modern-day human, as a key for survival for many centuries has been to strive to protect oneself against nature and the potential harms of natural issues. From weather and the elements, to the various creatures and organisms that could cause harm. By creating shelter to remove humans from these natural harmful scenarios, the buildings of the past were more about survival than they were about thriving. Yet as humans have become more technologically advanced and capable, our architecture has allowed for shelter to become more separated from the natural elements. And this can be seen in the international style of architecture, where these buildings appear similar in form and function no matter where they are in the world. Since the early 20th century, the international style could provide shelter from any weather conditions, from a hot, dry desert to cold, snowy climate. Whether it be the rainy tropics or the dry tundra, these buildings could provide separation from nature and the natural surroundings, and provide the required climatized shelter for human survival. However, this is also a current-day issue in how modern-day architecture, cities, and humanity in general have developed. The striving for survival in any environmental setting has also removed ourselves from the natural world and segmented us with the illusion that we are no longer connected. In order to find survival through shelter, humans have created buildings that have given the appearance that we do not need to be concerned about the natural world. In fact, the focus of shelter in the past was to specifically separate ourselves from the world in order to ensure our survival. And it is this mentality of overcoming nature that has removed our mindset as being connected to nature. And this is a major issue in the current day and age for several reasons. The first and perhaps most obvious is that we as humans are nature. Our bodies are composed of natural elements, from the average 70% content of the human body being water, to the many natural elements that our bodies use to grow our skin, bones, and organs. Elements such as carbon and silica provide the components that we depend upon for life, and are the same carbon and silica that much of the natural world is composed of. While our bodies are literally a part of nature, we also depend on the health of nature for life itself. The water we drink, the food we eat, and the quality of the environment determines the quality of our own health. If we pollute, destroy, or destruct the very nature that supports our lives for surviving, then that which we destroy will end up destroying humanity as well. 03. The architecture of life.
Parametricism is an autopoiesis, or a self-referential system, in which all the elements are interlinked and an outside influence that changes one alters all the others. There is another facet of parametric architecture that is perhaps less data-driven in arriving at concrete evidence, and more of a silent yet real connection to nature that we as living beings can benefit from. While we don't fully understand how the mechanics of entrainment really works, we do know that objects often synchronize when they are placed in the same environment. An article in Science Direct defines entrainment as a process that leads to temporal coordination of two actors' behavior, in particular, synchronization, even in the absence of a direct mechanical coupling. An example of this is when you put any clock in a room full of clocks, they eventually will all synchronize to the same rhythm. Entrainment is perhaps the most widely studied social motor coordination process. Schmidt, Fitzpatrick, KêNH Karen, and merge che, in press. For instance, two people in rocking chairs involuntarily synchronized their rocking frequencies. Richardson, Marsh, Eisenhower, Goodman, and Schmidt, 2007. And audiences in theaters tend to clap in unison. Nada, Ravis, Brecht, Vicsek, and Barabasi, 2000. So what if entrainment is also impacting us on an architectural level as well? For instance, if we are spending most of the time in rectangle, box-like shapes and forms and looking at these large rectangular designs such as cityscapes, can that attune us to shapes and forms that are less natural, and perhaps remove us from our connection to nature? If most of the natural world has more curving shapes and forms, from the flowing designs of streams, rivers, and countrysides to the curving shapes of plants and animals, can the curvilinear forms of the built environment help to attune us back to nature, and bring us to a future that is in more connection and reverence with nature and the natural world? The definition of health is health. Old English say, hail, wholeness, a being whole, sound or well. From Proto-Germanic say, halitho. From Pi say, kaila, whole, uninjured, of good omen. Source also of Old English say, hal, hail, whole. Old Norse say, heil, healthy. Therefore, the meaning of being unhealthy is to not be whole or to be disconnected and fragmented in some way. And so, part of the process of health and well-being is to have this sense of wholeness regained, especially for people in places that are fragmented. To include the reconnection back to nature and the natural world is a facet of this curving architecture that can support this process.
English in AEC. Urban planning. Some concepts of urban planning.
Urban planning. Urban planning. City planning. City planning. Rural planning. Rural planning. Regional planning. Regional planning. Scheme. Scheme. Plan. Plan. Urban design. Urban design. Planning cultures. Planning cultures. Urban economics. Urban economics. Urban planning education. Urban planning education. Urban history. Urban history. Urban vitality. Urban vitality. Urban informatics. Urban informatics. New urbanism. New urbanism. Behavioral urbanism. Behavioral urbanism. Urban planning in communist countries. Urban planning in communist countries. Urban microclimate. Urban microclimate. Urban density. Urban density. Densely populated area. Densely populated area. Rural-urban migration. Rural-urban migration. Land use and density requirements. Land use and density requirements. A dense city. A dense city. Living street. Living street. Smart city. Smart city. Sustainable city. Sustainable city. Funding. Funding. Urban ecological footprint. Urban ecological footprint. Site integrated designer. Site integrated designer. Representing the city's strength. Representing the city's strength.
Some concepts of urban transportation.
Circulation planning. Circulation planning. Road traffic safety. Road traffic safety. Curb cut effect. Curb cut effect. Bicycle friendly. Bicycle friendly. Cycling infrastructure. Cycling infrastructure. Walkability. Walkability. Urban structure thoroughfare balance. Urban structure thoroughfare balance. Domestic travel restrictions. Domestic travel restrictions. Centripetal and centrifugal movements. Centripetal and centrifugal movements. Inward movement. Inward movement. Outward movement. Outward movement.
Urban development.
Urbanization. Urbanization. Reurbanization. Reurbanization. Urban renewal. Urban renewal. Gentrification. Gentrification. Rezoning. Rezoning. Restructuring. Restructuring. Engage with the city. Engage with the city. Urban agglomerations. Urban agglomerations. Evolutionary theory of cities. Evolutionary theory of cities. Urban sprawl. Urban sprawl. Development studies. Development studies. Rural development. Rural development. Suburbanization. Suburbanization. Natural change. Natural change. Global megacity. Global megacity. Universal design. Universal design. Urban living can offer some benefits such as Urban living can offer some benefits such as improved access to health care. Improved access to health care. Improved sanitation. Improved sanitation. Improved opportunity for education. Improved opportunity for education. Improved opportunity for jobs with higher wages. Improved opportunity for jobs with higher wages. Improved social support systems. Improved social support systems. The world as a whole is 56.2% urbanized, with roughly 1/4 of the countries reported as greater than 80% urbanized. The world as a whole is 56.2% urbanized, with roughly 1/4 of the countries reported as greater than 80% urbanized. The Netherlands is the 30th most densely populated country in the world, with 404.6 inhabitants per square kilometer. The Netherlands is the 30th most densely populated country in the world, with 404.6 inhabitants per square kilometer.
Layout. Center.
Layout of Saigon. Layout of Saigon. Expanding the limits of the city to other areas. Expanding the limits of the city to other areas. There are many districts around this center area, like There are many districts around this center area, like in the middle, there's a lake. In the middle, there's a lake. If we go up north, we have. If we go up north, we have. There's also a river that goes through Saigon, called. There's also a river that goes through Saigon, called. Which is often what happens with cities, as it kind of swallows up these other areas that are being developed. Which is often what happens with cities, as it kind of swallows up these other areas that are being developed. Common patterns of urban form, building types, street types, tissues, urban fabric, city, region patterns. Common patterns of urban form, building types, street types, tissues, urban fabric, city, region patterns. Prototype urban planning. Prototype urban planning. Old, organic, until the end of 19th century. Old, organic, until the end of 19th century. Grid, between 1900 to 1910. Grid, between 1900 to 1910. Disordered orthogonal, pre-modern, end of 19th century till the 50s. Disordered orthogonal, pre-modern, end of 19th century till the 50s. Fragmented trees, modern, the 50s till the 80s. Fragmented trees, modern, the 50s till the 80s. Pictorial. Late modern, the 80s till today. Pictorial. Late modern, the 80s till today.
Functional areas.
Regional planning. Regional planning. Planned urban communities. Planned urban communities. Local real estate lingo. Local real estate lingo. Residential areas. Residential areas. Areas of economic activity. Areas of economic activity. Industrial manufacturing areas. Industrial manufacturing areas. Neighborhoods. Neighborhoods. Rural areas. Rural areas. Suburban areas. Suburban areas. Suburb. Suburb. Inner city. Inner city. Downtowns. Downtowns. Urban areas. Urban areas. The center. The center. Metropolitan. Metropolitan. The heart of the city. The heart of the city. The city's central urban heart. The city's central urban heart. Commercial center area. Commercial center area. CBD, a central business district, is the commercial and business center of a city. It contains commercial space and offices, and in larger cities will often be described as a financial district. Geographically, it often coincides with the city center or downtown. CBD, a central business district, is the commercial and business center of a city. It contains commercial space and offices, and in larger cities will often be described as a financial district. Geographically, it often coincides with the city center or downtown. Urban administrative area. Urban administrative area. Cultural center area. Cultural center area. Centralized resort. Centralized resort. The tourist area. The tourist area. Bungalow zone. Bungalow zone. Rental summer homes. Rental summer homes. Single-family housing stock. Single-family housing stock. Rookeries. Rookeries. Slum. Slum. Neighborhoods. Neighborhoods. Housing. Housing. Housing retail outlets. Housing retail outlets. Resettlement housing area. Resettlement housing area. Mix of apartments and maisonettes. Mix of apartments and maisonettes. Religious area. Religious area. Heritage conservation area. Heritage conservation area. Consulate. Embassy area. Consulate. Embassy area. Military zone. Military zone. The pool of parking for the whole area. The pool of parking for the whole area. Public beach. Public beach. Biosphere reserve. Biosphere reserve. Low emission zone. Low emission zone. Brownfield and greenfield sites. Brownfield and greenfield sites. Blue space. Blue space. Urban green space. Urban green space. Greenways. Greenways. Walking street. Walking street. Urban areas often enjoy a variety of opportunities for physical activity like. Urban areas often enjoy a variety of opportunities for physical activity like. Playgrounds and sports fields. Playgrounds and sports fields. Sidewalks and bike lanes. Sidewalks and bike lanes. Skate parks. Skate parks. Public swimming pools. Public swimming pools. Parks and pet parks. Parks and pet parks. Walking and biking to school. Walking and biking to school. Eligible sites. eligible sites. His idea was to relocate the poor workers who lived in the inner city slums to newly constructed suburbs, and to provide cheap rail travel for them to get to work. His idea was to relocate the poor workers who lived in the inner city slums to newly constructed suburbs, and to provide cheap rail travel for them to get to work. Building the railway would make it possible to move people to better housing in the suburbs. Building the railway would make it possible to move people to better housing in the suburbs. The area within consisted of poorly built, overcrowded slums, and the streets were full of motorcycle. The area within consisted of poorly built, overcrowded slums, and the streets were full of motorcycle.
Countryside.
Countryside. Countryside. Farmland. Farmland. Manor. Manor. Large rural estates. Large rural estates. Friendly and welcoming. Friendly and welcoming. Tranquil. Tranquil. Relaxing. Relaxing. Nature. Nature. I've never lived in the countryside, but I've been out there a few times. I've never lived in the countryside, but I've been out there a few times. Staying at the homestay. Staying at the homestay is a good way to get away from the hustle and bustle of a big city. Is a good way to get away from the hustle and bustle of a big city. Many people have their own kind of small business where they live. Many people have their own kind of small business where they live. Livestock farming. Livestock farming. Kind of in the natural way. Kind of in the natural way. The whole community. The whole community. Just getting their lives started. Just getting their lives started. Just getting back to daily life. Just getting back to daily life. Lighting fires, burning dead vegetation, maybe garbage. Lighting fires, burning dead vegetation, maybe garbage. It does pollute the air. It does pollute the air. It's a way to unwind. It's a way to unwind. Spend time with your parents. Spend time with your parents. The tensions provoked by town councilors trying to impose urban planning on rural country villages is creating an increasingly rebellious mood. The tensions provoked by town councilors trying to impose urban planning on rural country villages is creating an increasingly rebellious mood.
Urban energy sources.
Power supply. Power supply. Electricity. Electricity. Strategies for improving the urban energy situation. Strategies for improving the urban energy situation. Future possibilities of renewable energy sources in cities. Future possibilities of renewable energy sources in cities. Solar energy. Solar energy. Wind power. Wind power. Bioenergy and waste to energy. Bioenergy and waste to energy. Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy. Smart grids. Smart grids. A GIS-based model to assess buildings' energy consumption and usable solar energy potential in urban areas. A GIS-based model to assess buildings' energy consumption and usable solar energy potential in urban areas. Alternative and transitional energy sources for urban transportation. Alternative and transitional energy sources for urban transportation. To improve the energy efficiency of buildings in urban areas. To improve the energy efficiency of buildings in urban areas. The cities of the future must be resource and energy efficient, and have smart solutions for buildings, transport and infrastructure. The cities of the future must be resource and energy efficient, and have smart solutions for buildings, transport and infrastructure.
Urban environment.
Urban environment is defined as ecosystem of an urban area in which the urban residents interact with biotic and abiotic factors. Urban environment is defined as ecosystem of an urban area in which the urban residents interact with biotic and abiotic factors. Quality of the air and water. Quality of the air and water. Access to nature and biodiversity. Access to nature and biodiversity. Levels of noise pollution. Levels of noise pollution. Ability to keep cool as temperatures rise. Ability to keep cool as temperatures rise. Tackle environmental issues. Tackle environmental issues. Managing and sharing resources efficiently. Managing and sharing resources efficiently. Using the principles of the circular economy. Using the principles of the circular economy. Reducing the need for private motorized transport. Reducing the need for private motorized transport. Living in more energy efficient buildings. Living in more energy efficient buildings. European Green Deal. EGD. European Green Deal. EGD. A low-carbon, resource-efficient, sustainable and resilient society. A low-carbon, resource-efficient, sustainable and resilient society. Improving waste management. Improving waste management. Preserving and restoring green spaces. Preserving and restoring green spaces. Environment creator. Environment creator. Does not affect the environment much. Does not affect the environment much. Enhancing the circular economy. Enhancing the circular economy. Sustainable ecosystem. Sustainable ecosystem. Effects of household energy consumption on environment and its influence factors in rural and urban areas. Effects of household energy consumption on environment and its influence factors in rural and urban areas. Vehicular tailpipe and other emissions. Vehicular tailpipe and other emissions. Outdoor air quality. Outdoor air quality. Build up to unsafe levels in the ozone layer. Build up to unsafe levels in the ozone layer. Air quality alert. Air quality alert. Drinking water quality. Drinking water quality. Outdoor water quality may suffer though as. Outdoor water quality may suffer though as.
Urban problems.
Pollution. Pollution. Noise pollution. Noise pollution. Air pollution. Air pollution. Energy crisis. Energy crisis. Loss of security. Loss of security. Insecurity. Insecurity. Turmoil. Turmoil. Chaos of the city. Chaos of the city. Traffic jam. Traffic jam. Hazard mitigation. Hazard mitigation. Confined. Confined. Demolish. Demolish. Urban stress. Urban stress. Increased social stress. Increased social stress. Increased risk of crime. Increased risk of crime. Flooding. Flooding. Flooded roadways. Flooded roadways. Permeability. Permeability. Heavy rainfall can lead to localized flooding. Heavy rainfall can lead to localized flooding. Stormwater management continues to be an important topic to urban planners, especially with the increased frequency of extreme weather events connected with climate change. Stormwater management continues to be an important topic to urban planners, especially with the increased frequency of extreme weather events connected with climate change. Numerous schemes were proposed to resolve these problems, but few succeeded. Numerous schemes were proposed to resolve these problems, but few succeeded. Too often architects receive the attention, while urban planning rarely makes news. Too often architects receive the attention, while urban planning rarely makes news. The organization had difficulty in raising the funding for such a radical and expensive scheme, not least because of the critical articles printed by the press. The organization had difficulty in raising the funding for such a radical and expensive scheme, not least because of the critical articles printed by the press. Cities and urban areas are growing fast. There is an increasing need for urban planners who understand sustainable urban development and design. Cities and urban areas are growing fast. There is an increasing need for urban planners who understand sustainable urban development and design. Urban planners with technical insight and design understanding are therefore needed to ensure sustainable urban development of livable and smart cities. Urban planners with technical insight and design understanding are therefore needed to ensure sustainable urban development of livable and smart cities.
Appendix 1. Definition of urban planning.
Urban planning is an interdisciplinary field that includes civil engineering, architecture, human geography, politics, social science, and design sciences. Practitioners of urban planning are concerned with research and analysis, strategic thinking, engineering architecture, urban design, public consultation, policy recommendations, implementation and management. Urban planners work with the cognate fields of civil engineering, landscape architecture, and public administration to achieve strategic, policy and sustainability goals. The discipline of urban planning is the broader category that includes different subfields such as land use planning, zoning, economic development, environmental planning, and transportation planning. Creating the plans requires a thorough understanding of penal codes and zonal codes of planning.
Appendix 2. Urban planning theory.
Planning theory is the body of scientific concepts, definitions, behavioral relationships, and assumptions that define the body of knowledge of urban planning. There are 8 procedural theories of planning that remain the principal theories of planning procedure today. Rational comprehensive approach, incremental approach, transactive approach, communicative approach, advocacy approach, equity approach, radical approach, humanist or phenomenological approach. Some other conceptual planning theories include Ebenezer Howard's The Three Magnets theory that he envisioned for the future of British settlement, also his garden cities. The concentric model zone, also called the Burgess model by sociologist Ernest Burgess, the Radburn superblock that encourages pedestrian movement, the sector model and the multiple nuclei model, among others.
Appendix 3. Overview of urban energy. In 2012, global energy supply consisted of 81.3% fossil fuels, oil, coal, and gas, 9.7% nuclear power, and only 9% renewable energy sources, such as hydro, wind, biomass, and solar. Unfortunately, this widespread use of fossil fuels causes a number of challenges. Carbon-based energy generation has a large ecological footprint, not only due to rising greenhouse gas emissions and pollution caused by burning fuels, but also because of extraction techniques that contaminate the environment and frequent production or delivery accidents. Furthermore, because of the current monodependency on fossil fuels, supply drops or price hikes can easily disrupt economies. Fossil fuels are also all too often a source of regional conflicts and are misused as a means of political pressure. Besides, fossil fuel resources are not infinite, and their depletion is a near reality. English and AEC. Types of residence and housing design styles. 1. Types of residence.
Shelter, shelter. House, house. Housing, housing. My home, my home. Villas, villas. Mansion, mansion. Palace, palace. Castle, castle. Condominium, condominium. High-rise apartment, high-rise apartment. Flat, flat. Serviced apartment,
serviced apartment, student housing, student housing, rural hostels, rural hostels, house barn, house barn, storehouse, storehouse, stable, stable, farmstead, farmstead, small country house, small country house, straw hut, straw hut, 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 yurt, yurt, wigwam, wigwam, teepee, teepee, igloo, igloo, one-story thatch-roofed huts, one-story thatch-roofed huts, traditional stilt house, traditional stilt house, pile dwelling, pile dwelling, isba, isba, adobe house, adobe house, residential area, residential area, residential street, residential street, tract housing, tract housing, street house, street house, road house, road house, townhouse, townhouse, adjoining house, adjoining house, semi-detached cottage, semi-detached cottage, temporary residence, temporary residence, temporary and easy to set up shelter, temporary and easy to set up shelter, holiday home, holiday home, seacoast vacation houses, seacoast vacation houses, seaside holiday home, seaside holiday home, summer homes, summer homes, resort, resort, bungalow, bungalow, a form of mainly high-end tourist, a form of mainly high-end tourist, iron bungalows, iron bungalows, hotel, hotel, motel, motel, Fleabag Motel, Fleabag Motel, Roach Motel, Roach Motel, stay in a hotel, stay in a hotel, a bed and breakfast, a bed and breakfast, a youth hostel, a youth hostel, a villa for rent, a villa for rent, homestay, homestay, a holiday home, a holiday home, a caravan, a caravan.
2 types of housing.
Single-story wooden homesteads. Single-story wooden homesteads. One-story house. One-story house. Two-story house. Two-story house. 2 up, 2 down. 2 up, 2 down. Single floor living. Single floor living. Split level. Split level. Uses space efficiently. Uses space efficiently. Single unit. Single unit. Single family homes. Single family homes. Single family unit. Single family unit. Housing for the middle class. Housing for the middle class. Prodigy houses. Prodigy houses. More humble dwellings. More humble dwellings. Single-story living. Single-story living. Architectural vocabulary. Architectural vocabulary. Architecture and decor, home builders and interior decorators. Architecture and decor, home builders and interior decorators. style, style. Movement, movement.
Avant-garde movement. Avant-garde movement.
Informal X styles, informal X styles. Extremely popular style, extremely popular style. Ordinary, ordinary. Slipshod, slipshod. Personal style, personal style. The colorist movement, the colorist movement. Pop culture staple, pop culture staple. Architectural vernacular, architectural vernacular. Domestic architectural style, domestic architectural style. Suburban domestic ideal, suburban domestic ideal. 3 American indigenous styles, shingle, prairie, craftsman. 3 American indigenous styles, shingle, prairie, craftsman. Very informal and casual living style, very informal and casual living style.
3. Popular residential architecture styles.
A-frame, A-frame. Adobe, Adobe. Stucco, Stucco. Pueblo, Pueblo. Antebellum, Antebellum. Art and craft, Art and craft. Beaux-Arts, Beaux-Arts. Bungalow, Bungalow. Cape Cod, Cape Cod. Coastal, Coastal. Beach House, Beach House. Colonial Revival, Colonial Revival. Contemporary, Contemporary. Cottage, Cottage. Country, Country. Classical, Classical. Craftsman, Craftsman. Farmhouse, Farmhouse. Folk, Folk. Traditional, Traditional. Georgian, Georgian. Greek Ancient, Greek Ancient. Italianate, Italianate. Tuscan, Tuscan. International Style, International Style. Late Gothic, Late Gothic. English Perpendicular Gothic, English Perpendicular Gothic. Logs Cabin, Logs Cabin. Lodge House, Lodge House. Mediterranean, Mediterranean. Mission Revival, Mission Revival. Mountain, Mountain. Stilt House, Stilt House. Wooden Logs, Wooden Logs. National Style, National Style. Painted Ladies, Painted Ladies. Picturesque, Picturesque. Prairie, Prairie. Queen Anne, Queen Anne. Ranch, Ranch. Red brick, Red brick. Rustic, Rustic. Semi-rustic, Semi-rustic. Modern rustic, Modern rustic. Saltbox, Saltbox. Second Empire, Second Empire. Mansard roof, Mansard roof. Shingle, Shingle. Stick, Stick. East Lake, East Lake. Tudor, Tudor. Revive, Tudor, Revive, Tudor. Mock Tudor, Mock Tudor. Victorian, Victorian.
4. Design tricks.
Simple, simple. Humble, humble. Rustic but stylish, rustic but stylish. Unpretentious, unpretentious. Sleekness, sleekness, elegant, elegant, embellished, embellished, modern flair, modern flair, fresh and trendy, fresh and trendy, pretty, pretty, gorgeous, gorgeous, stunning, stunning, flamboyant, flamboyant, brightly colored edifices, brightly colored edifices, luxury and comfort, luxury and comfort, over opulence, over opulence, formal nature, formal nature, lavish, lavish, incredibly regal, incredibly regal, regal air, regal air, dramatic, dramatic, sense of adventure, sense of adventure, little distressed, little distressed, stuffy, stuffy, much warmer, much warmer, fanciful mix, fanciful mix, ornate embellishments, ornate embellishments, approachable and relaxed, approachable and relaxed, hold a strong emphasis on individuality, hold a strong emphasis on individuality, highly conceptual forms and designs, highly conceptual forms and designs, the subtle beauty of texture and connection, the subtle beauty of texture and connection, maintaining the traditionally appealing qualities of refuge, retreat and connection to nature, maintaining the traditionally appealing qualities of refuge, retreat and connection to nature, with design tweaks from, with design tweaks from, beautiful complement to the surrounding nature, beautiful complement to the surrounding nature.
5. How to find out. Clues of architectural style.
Clues for this style. Clues for this style. Define the look of the era. Define the look of the era. An example of the best of design during the time. An example of the best of design during the time. As the times change, so do the elements that people choose to incorporate into architecture. As the times change, so do the elements that people choose to incorporate into architecture. Understanding the various elements of architectural influences and style is important. Understanding the various elements of architectural influences and style is important. The combination of elements is what makes it possible to differentiate between the various categories of architectural styles. The combination of elements is what makes it possible to differentiate between the various categories of architectural styles. The elements of architectural style: building materials, age, structure, design, location. The elements of architectural style: building materials, age, structure, design, location. Old structures are physical representations of the past and can teach us about how people lived and what they valued at the time the buildings were constructed. Old structures are physical representations of the past and can teach us about how people lived and what they valued at the time the buildings were constructed.
6. Compliance with architectural styles.
Keeping in line with the principles. Keeping in line with the principles. Adheres to the purest forms of contemporary architecture. Adheres to the purest forms of contemporary architecture. Last sustained period. Last sustained period. Reinterpretation European Gothic Revival architecture. Reinterpretation European Gothic Revival architecture. Elements provided the impetus. Elements provided the impetus. Emulation. Emulation. Preserving architectural styles. Preserving architectural styles. Preservation of historic architecture goes beyond physical restoration. It involves raising awareness and engaging the public. Preservation of historic architecture goes beyond physical restoration. It involves raising awareness and engaging the public.
7. Change in architectural style.
Interest in the style.
interest in the style. Revival, revival. It is having a revival. It is having a revival. Imitated, imitated. Is becoming popular again. Is becoming popular again. Traditional version, traditional version. Endured through the test of time. Endured through the test of time. Preservationist movements. Preservationist movements. Eclectic. Eclectic. Neo. Neo. Neoclassical. Neoclassical. Neo-eclectic. Neo-eclectic. Shared. Shared. Reinvented the style. Reinvented the style. Set a new standard. Set a new standard. Modern-day reinventions. Modern-day reinventions. Modernist flair. Modernist flair. Broken the mold. Broken the mold. Careful recreations. Careful recreations. Dominant architectural style. Dominant architectural style. Direct opposition. Direct opposition. Borrowing and blending elements of earlier building styles to create a variation of the original that is more in keeping with the times. Borrowing and blending elements of earlier building styles to create a variation of the original that is more in keeping with the times. A new architectural style was thus created which, although also characterized as Neo-Renaissance, belongs essentially to its current period. A new architectural style was thus created which, although also characterized as Neo-Renaissance, belongs essentially to its current period. Painted ladies have evolved over the years, symbolizing both artistic expression and creative impulse. Painted ladies have evolved over the years, symbolizing both artistic expression and creative impulse. The Italianate style is a distinct 19th century period of the history of classical architecture. The Italianate style is a distinct 19th century period of the history of classical architecture. In the Italianate style, the architectural patterns and vocabulary of 16th century Italian Renaissance architecture served as inspiration inherited from Palladianism and Neoclassicism, synthesized with the aesthetics of the picturesque style. In the Italianate style, the architectural patterns and vocabulary of 16th century Italian Renaissance architecture served as inspiration inherited from Palladianism and Neoclassicism, synthesized with the aesthetics of the picturesque style.
8. Some techniques of transformation. Borrow details.
Accentuate with borrow details. Accentuate with borrow details. Accented. Accented. Accented by. Accented by. More prominent. More prominent. Emphasize. Emphasize. Dominated by. Dominated by. Flanked by. Flanked by. Adorned with. Adorned with. Surrounded by. Surrounded by. Sets a nice foreground. Sets a nice foreground. To contrast. To contrast. Augmented by. Augmented by. To highlight. To highlight. Puts more emphasis on. Puts more emphasis on. Serve to brighten further. Serve to brighten further. Is paired with. Is paired with. Complemented by. Complemented by. Complementing. Complementing. Details borrowed. Details borrowed. Seamlessly blend together. Seamlessly blend together. Matching. Matching. Glorious mismatch. Glorious mismatch. The great break. The great break. Hint at, but do not reproduce. Hint at, but do not reproduce. Historical and traditional decoration. Historical and traditional decoration. Barred their style cues. Barred their style cues. Full complement of the style's features. Full complement of the style's features. Add extra style. Add extra style. Individual custom houses. Individual custom houses. Customizable. Customizable. Adaptable. Adaptable. Embellish. Embellish. Enhance. Enhance. Boast polychromal color treatment. Boast polychromal color treatment. Expansive windows capture views. Expansive windows capture views. Natural materials echo with a sense of place. Natural materials echo with a sense of place. Each house wraps elegantly into its location. Each house wraps elegantly into its location. Showcases more. Showcases more. To be supported by. To be supported by. Offer. Offer. Apply to. Apply to. Bring in an abundance of natural lighting. Bring in an abundance of natural lighting. For a bit of warmth. For a bit of warmth. Contemporary vibe. Contemporary vibe. New techniques of computer-aided design. New techniques of computer-aided design.
9. Stylish stream.
Stream. Stream. Genesis of the style. Genesis of the style. Originated from. Originated from. Pioneered. Pioneered. Paved the way for the popular. Paved the way for the popular. Predecessor. Predecessor. Immediate ancestors. Immediate ancestors. Developed organically over the centuries. Developed organically over the centuries. Hard to pin down because it always evolving to fit a modern context. Hard to pin down because it always evolving to fit a modern context. Subsequent styles of architecture. Subsequent styles of architecture. Reflect the architecture of today. Reflect the architecture of today. Ever-evolving architectural styles. Ever-evolving architectural styles. Really the last hurrah for this era that spans several decades. Really the last hurrah for this era that spans several decades. Pop culture staple. Pop culture staple. Widely popularized rebirth. Widely popularized rebirth. Widen the appreciation. Widen the appreciation. Coincided. Coincided.
Appendix 1. What is architectural style? When you drive through different parts of town or travel to new places, you've probably noticed that there are a lot of different types of homes and buildings. One street may be filled with historic Victorian-style homes, and the next block could be modern high-rises. As the times change, so do the elements that people choose to incorporate into architecture. Traveling through a city or town can often be like looking in a time capsule, because it can show us how buildings and structures have evolved over time. Understanding the various elements of architectural influences and style is a great way to better understand both the structures in your own hometown and the most grandiose structures around the world. A. What is architectural style? Let's start with the basics. What, exactly, is architectural style? Architectural style is defined as a set of characteristics and features that make a building or other structure notable or historically identifiable. Those specific elements may carry over into various styles. Each specific architectural style includes a unique combination of elements such as form, aesthetics, method of construction, building materials, and regional character. The combination of elements is what makes it possible to differentiate between the various categories of architectural styles. B. What are the elements of architectural style? There are a lot of different elements that contribute to the architectural style of a structure. Building materials. Historically, the materials used to build structures were whatever materials were abundant in the area. Wood, brick, and stone were the most common building materials for thousands of years. As technology advanced, other types of building materials became popular, like steel, glass, and concrete. Better technology also created steadier materials that could be used to build taller buildings. Understanding what materials were used to build a structure can give you a lot of clues about its architectural style. Age. The time in which a structure was built is another key component of architectural style. This is especially important because many elements of architecture tend to go in and out of style. So, two buildings may appear to have a similar style, but if they were built in different eras, they likely have subtle but important differences. For example, a building that was built in Rome between 850 BC and 500 AD would likely be an example of classical architecture, like the Roman Colosseum. However, a similar style building that was built later may be an example of neoclassical or Renaissance styles of architecture. Knowing the age and context of when a building was designed and built is an important piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding architectural style. Structure design. The design aesthetics of a structure are essential to its style. The design of a structure includes understanding elements such as line, color, shape, mass, space, texture, and more. A classical building will be designed with absolute symmetry and strict mathematical principles, as opposed to a Gothic structure that features elaborate details like pointed arches and ornate decorations. Every style of architecture has key features and components that define that particular style. Understanding how the individual design elements contribute to the structure is crucial to connecting with the architectural style of the building. Location. Where a building is located has a significant effect on architectural style. To be effective, a building design must take into account location-based factors such as climate, geography, topography, site features, and more. In order to create a safe and long-lasting structure, it's imperative for architects to have an intimate understanding of the location where a building will be built. A building that is in a swampy area will require a much different design than one being built in a rocky area. Structure designs must account for local weather conditions, potential natural disasters, and more. Buildings should also be created to take advantage of naturally occurring features like natural light, spectacular views, and other elements. In addition to physical attributes, the social and cultural norms of the location must also be considered in order for the final structure to be useful in its purpose. In some cultures, the direction a building faces or the number of floors it is can be culturally significant, so it's vital that designers understand not only the land, but also the people for whom they're designing. See, why is architectural style important? Buildings can stand for hundreds, or even thousands, of years. Old structures are physical representations of the past and can teach us about how people lived and what they valued at the time the buildings were constructed. We can use architectural style in new buildings to indicate what's important to us now, such as by using sustainable materials that are better for the planet, or by incorporating a lot of windows to bring in the most amount of natural light. In addition to providing context about the world at large, architectural style can also provide beauty and aesthetics to functional spaces. As humans, we spend a lot of time indoors, and having beautifully designed spaces in our homes and workplaces can add a lot of value to those places. A building where people want to spend their time offers much more value than just walls and ceilings. What are your favorite architectural elements? Do you prefer historical designs or contemporary structures? Appendix 2, 5 Points of Architecture of Le Corbusier.
1. Lift the building over pilatus. The ground floor of the house, like the street, belongs to the automobile. Therefore, housing is raised on pilatus to allow the vehicle's movement or the green continuity. 2. Free designing of the ground plan. Free plan. A building floor plan should be free from structural condition, so partitions can be organized in any way. 3. The free facade. The structure separates from the facade, relieving it of its structural function. 4. The horizontal window. Ribbon window. The facade can be cut along its entire length to allow room to be lit equally. 5. The roof garden. A building should give back the space it takes up on the ground by replacing it with a garden in the sky.